Kevin Kajiwara is co-president of Political Risk Advisory at Teneo. Kevin, great to have you here. The tariff situation is tamped down just a little bit, at least in terms of the rhetoric, at least in terms of the fears. I know we still have this kind of July 9th deadline sort of looming over all of this. How are folks in the C-suite feeling right now about their ability to either source supplies or export their materials in a way that is efficient and profitable to them?
Well, I think they're very concerned that, you're right, it has sort of tamped down, but I think it's part of that is a function of the fact that there's a limited bandwidth, right? I mean, everybody over the last weekend was completely focused on how bad the Middle East situation might or might not get. And, you know, there have been a lot of other issues on the table, the fiscal bill, et cetera, et cetera. Well, all of a sudden, again, looming out there a week and a half away from now is, of course, the snapback of the reciprocal tariffs, not to mention the fact that there might be legal challenges to that. And as you know, what was promised was 90 deals in 90 days. We have one sort of deal with the UK. We've got a ceasefire agreement essentially with the Chinese, but there haven't been any major deals. So I think that a lot of the C-suites are they're cognizant of the fact that market pressure may return to the issue, and you know that you can't straight line where we are right now.
I mean, it's kind of weird because we're talking on a day where the markets are either at or near record highs. Yet yesterday we had a big earnings report out of FedEx where they basically said we can't provide forward guidance right now because of the uncertainty around tariffs. Yet markets, in theory, are supposed to be forward pricing mechanisms. And I'm wondering if there is a disconnect between what you're hearing in the C-suite and what we're seeing play out in the markets.
I would listen to what FedEx said. I mean, they are living it every single day, and they can see the trends that are building in all of the international markets. Who companies are, you know, able to source from easily, where there are holds up at ports of entry and the like. I think they've got you know, a superb view on this, so I would listen to them pretty carefully.
I'm not sure where you were on Saturday night, but I think a lot of us, of course, got those alerts on our phone about the U.S. getting involved in those Iran strikes, and there was a lot of concern about what it would mean for markets, but more importantly, this idea that now CEOs and CFOs and other folks in the C-suite now have another thing that they need to worry about and maybe sort of plot out. If there are disruptions to global trade, if there is some sort of reflaring, I guess, if you will, in the situation in the Middle East, how are they actually preparing for that right now?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was at my son's high school graduation when it broke, so, you know, just my luck. But I think the bottom line here is that CEOs have learned over the last, you know, several years now, really going all the way back to COVID in particular, but they've got to run some triage, right? I mean, the reality of it is that there are a lot of balls in the air right now on issues that can, will, or might be able to impact them and their businesses. We've talked about some of them already, from the fiscal bill, the tariffs issue, and then, you know, things like the Middle East. You may have people in the Middle East. You're going to be impacted by energy prices and the like. So I think very quickly they had to ascertain whether this was going to blow up into something very big, which, by the way, there was a very big risk of that happening, or whether it would get tamped down. Now, my point today would be don't straight line anything. This is not a fire that is completely out. There's a lot of unknowables, as Wendy Sherman just talked about in the previous segment as an example. So, you know, the point is that, but at this moment, it seems to be tamped down. You know, there's not going to be an eruption of oil. Both Israel and Iran have rationales and incentives to stand down for a while, but we have kicked the can down the road. This is going to be, I mean, ceasefire is not a peace deal, and ceasefires have a way of flaring up in that part of the world.
You use the phrase kick the can down the road, and you can kind of apply that phrase to a lot of things that have been coming out of Washington and out of other governments as well, including on tariffs. And I do wonder if that makes things even more difficult for CEOs, because at least if you have some disruption and you know that at some point it is going to be resolved, you can plan around that. But when you start having trade deadlines, you just keep getting moved back. And then, of course, now the situation in the Middle East, we have no idea what Iran's response might be. What's the adjustment?
Well, Romaine, you know, I think we've talked about this on the show before, that uncertainty is a tax in the sense that it perverts otherwise, what would be your normal economic behavior. So the longer you kick that can down the road, that uncertainty persists, that delays your ability to make significant strategic decisions. You're making a lot of tactical decisions, but those strategic decisions keep getting delayed. And if you think about what CEOs were thinking coming out of the election, that this was going to, this was going to unleash animal spirits, but now in the interim, there's this kind of disruptive period that they're having to go through. That there's the opportunity cost of not having unleashed those spirits earlier. You're not going to be able to recover that. So it's just going to take, it's going to get kicked further down.
I want to bring the conversation back to very local here, and I just want to ask you a quick question about the results of the Democratic primary here in New York City, which for our viewers, for the most part, determines the general election. There was a lot of concern in the business community and Wall Street about the potential election of a very progressive left-wing candidate who wants to do a lot of things that, at least in the business community, they feel would maybe be anti-friendly to them. This isn't unique to New York City. We've seen this in other cities. We've seen this in other countries. And I do wonder if CEOs have that potential risk on their radar. Not that it's sort of the end of the world, but that it may alter their ability to do business in the way that they want to.
Well, look, I mean, I think that, if there's one thing that's been a hallmark of elections in the developed world and in the United States since the turn of the 21st century, it has been an anti-incumbent fervor, right? And so I think there's a lot of different ways. The jury is out on this. He is not the mayor yet, as an example. There are a lot of people who take maximalist approaches during the campaign and then are brought into reality. There's a lot of power centers in this city, as an example, right, that could temper some of those extreme views. And he's going to need the tax base to accomplish a lot of what he wants to. But there was also another kind of, I mean, if you want to look at sort of a silver lining, perhaps, is that, this statement that the Democrats around the country needed to move beyond the old generation, move to that next generation. Look, there's going to be winners and losers in all of this, but this need to turn over a new leaf might have been a part of this as well.
All right, Kevin, I have to leave it there. Always a wonderful conversation. Kevin Kajiwara, co-president of Political Risk Advisory at Teneo.